Hey guys, what is up? This is Pants Our Dragon, and today we're doing the top 5 best mid laners for solo queue as a patch 5.16. Alright, so what happened in patch 5.16? Discovered new champs by me, Viktor getting nerfed, Ahri getting nerfed, and something like Azir actually still being good and not being shitty after they removed the knockup from his E, and also taking out the passive attack speed but applying it to his W, and some random buffs to champions, and of course a bunch of items being changed for at least tanks. And why don't we just get started, honestly? Okay, so number 5 is going to be Diana. Okay, so Diana has been showing up a lot in LCS and solo queue. I think a lot of people are taking teleport on her in the mid lane, I'm not sure. But I think a lot of people are building Nashor's Tooth on her. I'm not a big fan of it for myself in the jungle, but I can see it being used in the mid lane since they need the CDR, and they're more tanky since they have more levels. What makes her so good in the mid lane, she can build against her lane if she's having trouble, so go any Abyssal, or she can go Zonia's and win the matchup then. And her incredible AP scaling lets her burst out enemy squishies. Although I can't really say that I find her annoying to deal with because I've never faced her. I've only had her on my team, and she's just like a really good assassin at the moment, like definitely better than some assassins that have been nerfed. In fact, I should start playing her in the mid lane since she's kind of easy pre-6, as you just have to survive, and that's my playstyle when I play mid. So yeah, probably my number 1 mid personally, but in terms of like solo queue, I'd say around here. Next up, we have Fizz in number 4. So Fizz is really good at going into the enemy and assassinating a target with increased damage from his ultimate. I do think AP Fizz is the strongest out of all of them, and whenever I see a Fizz mid and he's like way ahead, I just see him wrecking a lot of team fights. It's also really hard to gank him since he has his E, which is a really good escape, and just like think of old AP Fizz just toned down a bit. Although I do think it's like more of a solo queue pick than a competitive pick for sure. Next up at number 3 is Brand. This is interesting, isn't it, to see this character right here at number 3. Okay, so whenever I face him, I always lose, blah blah blah, but here's the real reasons why I find him really obnoxious. So I was playing like the rework Skarner, and then I was facing Keen, who was playing Brand, and he had Riley's Crystal Scepter, and I was like trying to get to him, but all he would do is cast his spells, smash it at me, and I'd just get kited really easily. And I didn't have Merc Treads because he was the only AP in the game, and I even like fed my mid laner to win against him, but he just somehow came back. And basically his W has a 40% slow, his passive keeps applying a 20% slow, his E is a 40% slow, his ultimate is a 40% slow. Oh my god, it's just getting obnoxious. And then his Q doesn't count because it's already a stun. But I do think that Brand is really strong right now, like especially if you're not facing a lot of assassins who can like pop him fast, then he's really good since he'll just like keep burning you alive. And especially with the Lianji's buff, I do think that he's definitely a better mid laner. The only thing that sucks about him is he's all skill shots except for his E and R. Next up is going to be Ahri. So the nerf that came to her was basically just for her sustain, and it doesn't even hurt that much, as her sustain wasn't her key point of why she was good, it was basically her kit. So yeah, nerf, it was barely nothing, and she's still viable and definitely a top tier pick. And at number 1 is going to be Twisted Fate. With Viktor getting nerfed and Twisted Fate not getting any nerfs, well, it's safe to say that he's definitely one of the best mid laners at the moment. The way he can go around the map and get some kills, the way he has a 2-second stun every 5 seconds, and the gold on his passive, giving him more gold to get some items, is really nice. Though he is very vulnerable to ganks since the only escape he has is his gold card, but that's why you go Flash and Ghost, so you have a lot of survivability in the lane. And even if he does fall behind, at least he has his gold card to stun enemies, and his base damage is really strong. But yeah, he's probably number 1 in my books, and if I main mid, I'd definitely play him. Next up, we're going to be doing some auto mentions, and first up is going to be Kog'Maw. So Kog'Maw is still good, Lianji's, Luden's Echo, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, all good items on him to make him a really good pokey champion. Wait till he's level 16 and you basically win the game if you can protect him. Next up, I want to talk about Yasuo, and in this patch he gets an indirect nerf. The changes to Randuin's, where it reduces crit damage, is now a really good item against this character. So Yasuo will be doing reduced damage against tanks in a sense, but obviously he's Yasuo, so he can still kill the squishies if he gets an ultimate on them. Next up is going to be Ahri, and Ahri bot, all I see is you spam this champion and do really good. A lot. And you're really consistent too. You also like to roam a lot, I see that so much coming from you. And you just love making big plays when you flash into the enemy and basically wipe them out with 1 Tibbers. Your champion also has been nerfed a ton of times as a support, but that doesn't matter for you since you're playing him AP. Oops, I mean her. Next up is going to be Orianna. So she's debatable for 5th place with Diana, but again, I just see a lot more Dianas than I do Oriannas. I do feel like Diana has more of an impact than Orianna, at least in the early game and mid game, but once it comes to the late game, I feel like Orianna is definitely better. And also, sometimes her ultimate does a lot of damage, but other times if she doesn't have enough AP, it's just CC that looks kinda cool when you get a 5-man ultimate. Next up is going to be Azir, and in the right hands, he's definitely one of the top tier picks. And you might be wondering, why is he so good? Okay, so Nashor's Tooth is a really good item on him, as the changes to Nashor's Tooth definitely increase the AP aspect of it while lowering the attack speed. And also Rylai's Crystal Scepter is really strong on him for kiting and just poking down enemy and yeah, yada yada. Those two items are really strong on him. Sure, he lost some attack speed and he lost a bit of all-in potential, but Nashor's Tooth is still what makes him still in this meta. And last but not least in our honorable mentions will be Viktor. I actually do think the nerfs to his Hex Core is actually hurting him a lot. Like, that was a lot of stats he was getting from the Hex Core, and now he's barely getting any unless you kinda upgrade it. But like, now Viktor has to decide whether he should upgrade his Hex Core, and he's also not as consistent as before since he doesn't scale as good as he did before with levels. He's still probably going to be picked up for like LCS and stuff, but for solo queue, I don't like him. I don't like him when he's on my team, and I just feel like there are better mid laners right now. Anyways, thanks guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know who you think the #1 mid laner is in League of Legends right now, and I'll see you guys next time.
I guess the money should have changed them. I guess I should have forget where I came from. Excuse me, was you saying something? You can't tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing.